All right, folks. I believe we're live. I believe so. Let's see. I believe so. Excuse me here. We're just having a couple of minor issues going on behind. Let's see. There we go. Perfect. All right. Well, I tried to get myself up on the top left to be a little bit less inconvenient, but technology is going to be its thing. So we're going to go ahead and move on with this as actually, hold on just 1 minute. Yeah, that's all right. Whatever. We don't need that. All right. So, good afternoon, folks. I hope you're having a wonderful afternoon as we start off this Thursday broadcast with a little bit of a messy one, as always. Of course, since this is just a brand new thing I'm starting to do, give me a little bit of grace as we continue to work on this. But at the moment, we're going to be talking about during this live stream, we're going to be talking about the severe risk for Saturday, which will be quite an interesting one. It goes across all of my coverage area, including Arkansas, Northwest Arkansas, and as well as Western Kentucky and South Central Kentucky, as well as Nashville metro area. So let's get straight on into this. We have a level 2 out of 5, slight risk over all of Arkansas, including tad bit of portions of southwest Missouri and then portions of northeastern Oklahoma, southeastern Kansas. Not as much of a deal. You are under a marginal risk, however. And then as you look over at Kentucky, you can see that we do have a slight risk, barely going to be touching into our coverage area. As you look at the county map, you can see that it's just going to be barely poking on in there. So nothing too concerning at the moment, as it's a marginal risk over it, but you never just want to look at the color contours and be like, ooh, scary or not. So let's go ahead and hop into the overall risk. Tornado risk is actually a lot higher earlier this morning. That 5% risk was reaching all the way into Clarksville area, but at the moment it is not, so thankful for that. But at the moment, just a 2% risk over all of northwest Arkansas, southwest Missouri, and northeastern Oklahoma, as well as maybe a tad bit of portion of southeast Kansas could be moved in there. I wouldn't be surprised if it was slightly moved upwards a little bit, but don't count on it too much. However, looking over at Kentucky and Tennessee, you can see that we do have that 2% tornado risk as well. And as you look at the cities, you can see that Bowling Green and Nashville is in it as well. So definitely going to be keeping an eye on it at all times, as well as the wind threat, and which is, I think, will be the primary cause in this, or primary concern for all this. And then everybody else that I've been seeing kind of agrees with this. So 15% risk, I wouldn't be surprised if it goes hashed at all. I mean, I'm not trying to scare anybody or anything, but these will be pretty strong winds, as well as very frequent lightning, as we'll get more into that later. So definitely want to make sure you have everything secured down. All those fall decorations that you have. I know Halloween's creeping around the corner, so any Halloween decorations, make sure they're strapped down. We don't want a skeleton a few neighborhoods over, if you will. So definitely want to make sure we keep those strapped down. However, hail. 15% over northwest Arkansas, and I can see that as well. No threat for Kentucky or Tennessee, so that's nice to see for once. But Arkansas, you'll be watching that hail risk as well, and that will be primarily when cells are starting to develop and as they start to get more organized. So as we talk about this, we're going to go ahead and look on into what the HRRR could depict, or is, what the HRRR is depicting. We're going to look at the 18Z HRRR. So I'm going to go ahead and go on a wider view. I was looking at this earlier just from this perspective, because it kind of gives you an hourly, but I'm going to go ahead and give you a wide view before I do anything of hourly. So looking at this is going to be about midnight. I don't know why it's doing that. It did it last time. I don't know why it's still doing it this time. So give me some grace on that. Like I said, it ain't beautiful, but we're going to get it done. So after that little mess up there, you can see that around 2 a.m. we start to see some showers, and it's just going to be a little bit of showers here, and that will really help us in the severe risk in the afternoon. As we get towards noon, you can see that definitely have some showers rolling through, and we can see, and we're going to see a lot of lightning out of this too. So definitely going to make sure that if you're at excuse my voice. If you're over at the Razorback football game, you definitely want to make sure whenever they're going to a lightning day, because even though it's 2:30 kickoff, I wouldn't be surprised. So if you're going out to the Arkansas and Texas A&M game, definitely make sure you have a plan of like what you're going to do, where you're going to go, in case the event either does get canceled, which I don't think will happen. I think it's primarily just going to be delayed due to lightning. I mean, if they cancel it, hey, I think it was Purdue earlier this year. I think it was like week 2 or 3 that they ended up having the game delayed for like 5-6 hours, and we're like, this is still going. So I don't think they'll cancel it, but just in case, you always want to make sure you have a backup plan, as well as just a plan to stay dry while you're tailgating. So definitely want to make sure you're watching that. But as we go throughout the rest of the evening, you can see right around 6 p.m., you can see that just some leftover showers starting to move through. Those won't be that much of a deal, but going back, you can see right about noon is whenever we're going to really start to watch that severe weather potential, as we're going to go ahead and look at a sounding out of Fayetteville. So let's see what we got right here. As also, I want to say this, I just want to clarify it. Whenever you see things like the possible hazard type marginal tornado, a lot of people like to use that for fear. Do not worry about that too much. That is just something that the model sits there and is like, okay, here's everything put together. This is what the possible hazard is. There's been multiple times where it's been correct, but there's been plenty more times that it's been completely wrong. That storm system a while back, I forgot the date. You'll have to excuse me on that. But the storm system last time I went live, that had marginal tornado. That had a whole bunch of different signalings towards the tornado. So just because it says it doesn't mean it'll happen. Now, our tornado risk is non-zero. However, it is on the lower end. But looking at the sound, you can see that we do have that little bit of a gap there for some hail possible. So I definitely can see that. Looking at the hodograph. There we go. I was trying to think of the term there. Looking at the hodograph, we do have a nice little hook there. So definitely going to keep an eye out on that critical angle of 72. Nice little angle there. But looking at the Cape values, Cape values, or as we call it, energy in the atmosphere, it's looking around 2,000 joules per kilogram, which is a lot higher than what it had last night and yesterday. So definitely going to keep an eye out on that because if that Cape value shoots through the roof, then that could be some trouble. However, I think it will be limited based on the morning showers, which I think there'll be a little bit more than this model was predicting. But we're going to go ahead and go past that for the moment, and I'm going to go ahead and talk about Northwest Arkansas off the top, and then we'll move into Kentucky a little bit later on, just since we're a little bit closer on that time frame to Arkansas. So as to when the showers come in. So looking at that, you can see that we have some shower potential starting in our coverage area in northeastern Kansas, right around, or not northeastern, southeastern Kansas, right around midnight. And then as we get towards noon, it doesn't show as much, which would be a little bit of trouble. This would be, I honestly don't see this. This is making it go a lot slower. I don't really see that. So I'm going to go ahead and switch back to, we're going to go to the 20Z, see if it says anything differently, because that has it moving very slow, and I'm not quite as confident that will happen. So yeah, not much, same kind of ordeal with the last couple of runs outside of the 18Z. So I'll go ahead and look at the 12Z, see what the difference is here, or 16Z, 12Z. Yeah, 12Z. You'll have to excuse me there, folks, as we just try and continue figuring all this out. I'm learning just along as with y'all, as I just got off work a little bit ago and finally got to have some dinner in me, and I hopped right on this. So give me a little bit of grace if you would. But as you can see, that shower potential right again around noon. It says it on the 12Z HRR as well. So definitely interested to see what the 0Z1 picks out. And unfortunately, by the time that I end this, it won't be out, which is quite unfortunate. But normally I'd stay up for that. But unfortunately, I got to be up early in the morning. So I hope y'all can understand on that. But I just want to give a quick update after that. Not very much shower potential for the next few days. However, we do start to see it again popping up Wednesday into Thursday. So after we get through this, as I did that, as it happens all the time, but after that, it shouldn't be too big of a deal. So definitely just monitoring this first part. But one of the things I wanted to show you, lightning flash density. There we are. So looking at Northwest Arkansas during all the shower potential, you can see that there's going to be a lot of lightning. So I want to go ahead and scroll down so you can see the contours there. But right around noon, and this is looking at right about 2 to 3 o'clock, you can see that there's quite a bit of lightning. So I think the game will be delayed a little bit. So definitely, like I said, make sure that you have something prepared for whenever that does happen, as well as just don't be outside in general during all of this. I know people are like, oh, it's just a little bit of lightning. What's the worst that can happen? Well, to be quite frank, we had over at the Bowling Green Hot Rods here. I've been part of grounds crew for the last year or so. We had some lightning that was very close to us and definitely shook a lot of us up. However, there's been plenty of events, if not just outside of that, that have been proven to be fatal for folks who have not sat there and taken cover. I want to believe it was 2009 or 2008. It was during the COT era of NASCAR at Pocono. There was a lightning. They delayed the race, or no, they ended the race early due to some rain and lightning. And lightning struck in the parking lot while fans were leaving the area. And I believe it was one or two that was killed, but regardless, it was fatal. And so that changed a lot of procedures, and those kind of things have changed a lot of procedures. So don't fall victim to lightning strikes. We've seen plenty of them year and year of people just being outside. Also, if there is, or if, as you know, the saying, if thunder roars, go indoors, but also just don't stand under a tree or any kind of metal, or just don't be out in the open. Just don't be in lightning in general. So moving on from that, I am going to look at overall precipitation from this, because I saw someone the other day asking how much precipitation we'd get from this. Nothing too crazy. I don't even think we'll get a full 2-inch or inch and a half. So I feel like that's pretty aggressive. I feel like 2.5 inches is pretty aggressive. This will be a fairly fast moving storm. So I don't quite think in the fact that we'll see that much in northwest and southwest Arkansas. I'd say we could see isolated areas where it's kind of the precipitation is trailing up to 2 inches. However, I'm not too concerned about that. However, we're going to go ahead and switch on over to Kentucky and Tennessee and talk about that a little bit, because I know we have some folks there wondering what's kind of going on, because I've talked about it in person there, and I know I have a few folks just kind of tuning in at the moment. So looking at the HRRR, once again, here we are. It's primarily going to be a nocturnal thing, which for me and you both, that's going to suck. So if you got some doggos and they're afraid of it, definitely want to make sure you give them some good old doggo drugs before before you go to sleep. That way they can rest easy alongside you, as you actually might get woken up by these storms. But looking at the 18Z GFS, excuse me, HRRR, you can see that precipitation has massively gone down compared to what it was whenever I last showed it. However, we are kind of watching this little band, and that is quite the beautiful little band there whenever you put it in motion. Man, I'm sorry, it's little things like that that look very beautiful when you have that line like that. I mean, I don't know. Maybe it's just me being weird, but that's just kind of it. So if you'll have to excuse me real quick, I got to get a drink. All right. So moving on, as you'll have to excuse me on that, you can see that general precipitation potential will be moving in right around the probably 2-3 a.m.-ish area in Bowling Green. It'll probably be knocking on Clarksville's door right around midnight. And so definitely it's nice that it's rolling through at night, not during the day, and it should be out of the area right about 6 a.m. Could be a little bit farther back. So the Titans and oh man, who is it? I don't know, the Titans game. However, that shouldn't have any impact. So don't worry too much if you're going to that game. I don't see any issues with the Titans game. Just going to be a little humid. It's not going to be quite the most comfortable game out there, but that's all right. It's the Titans. Y'all have gone through it enough already. So what's a little bit of humidity going to do? So moving on, looking at the lightning flash density. I do not know why, but I just could not get that one off the tongue. However, as you look at it, not as much lightning, as the storms will be continuing to decrease as they get farther east. And so I'm not too worried about the Cumberland River area, so I'm not too concerned about that. And I'm hoping that the potential is very low, as I don't think either me or you want to be up at 5-6 in the morning talking about this. So yeah, let's just hope that the severe weather goes down a little bit, but I'm not seeing too much from it. I'll go ahead and look at a sounding here in Bowling Green at right about midnight, see what it's depicting, but I don't think, just not the greatest sounding. I'm going to go ahead and take it back an hour since the storm's starting to creep up, and still not the greatest sounding looking there, so I'm not too thrilled on I'm not too interested on the severe threat as much in the Cumberland River area. So Nashville, Bowling Green, Clarksville, all those bigger areas don't have to worry about the severe threat as much. Now, Gonna go back to it because I don't want this to be an all clear. Once again, we are under a threat. We have a marginal risk, slight risk, including Clarksville. Excuse me, sorry. And you might have just heard it, but there's a very loud. I'm going to assume there's a Mustang that just drove past. As continuing what I was saying, just because I'm talking a little bit lower about it doesn't mean that that there isn't a risk. As you can see, there's a marginal risk and then a slight risk creeping in Clarksville. We still have that non-zero tornado threat of 2% tornado risk. We can never rule out something like this. Even if it doesn't look all that great, you just can't rule it out. So looking at wind, that'll be our primary threat, I believe. And then hail, once again, that's all of Northwest Arkansas's problem, unfortunately for y'all. So I'm going to go ahead and keep this fairly short, but I'm going to continue to just kind of talk about this. But looking at the surface map, you can see that we have that low pressure swinging on through. Excuse me, I had a little bit of an accent pop out there. I can't believe that just happened. All right. But moving on from that, you can see that we have that little marginal risk, that low pressure sneaking on through, and that'll be part of our issue tomorrow. And then going back to the whole Cumberland area, as we're going to go ahead and look at the GFS and see what it depicts for the rest of the week. Now, I will apologize to the Cumberland River area. I have not quite been able to work on your forecast. The last couple of days have been a little rough behind the scenes with work outside of here. So you'll have to forgive me on that, as I am working on one for you. Not tomorrow, but I will have one on Sunday just because of the severe threat tomorrow. I will be on standby waiting on live stream. It'll probably be till after 11 a.m. if I do need to do a live stream. So definitely keep an eye out there. But moving on from there, not really any much shower potential until creeping into Thursday, Friday, into Saturday as well. So looks like we're going to get a nice stretch all across the board here. But I'm going to go ahead and show the current jet stream as we look at 500 millibar height and wind. Excuse me, folks. Excuse me one more time. As you can see, as you look, excuse me, I'm having a lot of troubles with my voice today, folks, and I do sincerely apologize about that. I'm not sure what's been going on. It's been working great all day, just not right now. But moving on, as you can see, that trough just really digging in, and this is at this is just I don't like it. I just hate how much that trough is going to be digging in. But as you can see, after that, we don't have too many issues with severe threat. But this is the primary factor, and I'm going to pause it right here. This is what's digging in here. And I know that's kind of going fast. I do apologize for that. But that's where the jet stream is digging in. And so that's where we're going to start get that severe weather potential. But I'm going to go ahead and we're going to go back to the HRRR because I do want to see what the Cape or energy levels are. Let's see. There we go. I don't want to do 0 to 3. We're surface based. There we are. We're most unstable. That's what it's looking for. All right. Then we're going to go back to the central U.S. Excuse me. I tend to break out into a random little bit like that. That's just what you get when you that's just what you get with me, so I do apologize for that. But looking at most unstable Cape, let's see, right around 12 o'clock. Oops, excuse me, I did not mean to do that there. Like I said, this kind of stuff happens. It's one of those where you got to laugh it off and just carry on. So let's go ahead and do that. Yeah, and definitely around 17Z, it shows a lot more cap, and that just looks like to be the area that I clicked on. So right around the upper 1,500 joules, right around 1,500 joules per kilogram of Cape, maybe reaching up to 2,000, but I think it'll really depend on the morning convection, which we're going to go ahead and look at one more time a little bit later on. But looking at supercell composite, which I had someone ask me the other day, they're like, is it supercells we're worried about? What's the deal? Well, nothing too much. We have a very small little supercell risk there, but I'm not too concerned about supercells, especially if there's any early ignition of storms. I don't think there'll be any issues as to what happens, or I don't think there'll be any issues with that pop-up shower or any one that pops up, since we don't have that daytime heating yet. We don't have the full conditions favorable for those to last. However, we can't never say never, so I'll always be monitoring these. Even while at work, I'm monitoring these like a hawk, so trust me, I'm watching out. That's what I kind of like to do for y'all. So don't worry about it too much. I'll always keep an eye on it, but definitely want to make sure you're staying weather aware as well. You never want to be, caught in the dark with one of these storm systems because they can change just like that. One of the things that I want to talk about real quick as to just how unprecedented the weather can be. We had an 11-year, or excuse me, a 12-year EF5 drought. Where was it broken? North Dakota. That's just how weird this weather, how weird weather can be. So never want to downplay an event, but you never want to overdo an event because when you do both of those, you can end up with some very unrelying trust. And I was trying to give my 100% perspective in all of this. So we're going to go ahead and look at, I want to see what dew point and winds look like, because that will be a major factor in this, as well as dew points is one of the most important things when it comes to storms. And we definitely have a lot of moisture. Man, I'll tell you what, if the conditions were just a little bit more favorable in the river valley, then say River Valley would be in trouble, but I'm not seeing as much concern in the River Valley. However, you go east, and I'm bringing up this tornado risk as well, or categorical risk. I didn't realize it changed there. Excuse me. You can see that all of Northwest Arkansas is involved in it, or all of Arkansas is involved with it. But as farther east in Arkansas as you get, and I do know I have a couple of folks over in the northern sections around Mountain Home watching as well. So to y'all, definitely want to keep an eye out. Definitely with the wind and hail, but definitely the tornado risk. I definitely think the tornado risk could be ramping up. As let's go ahead and, like I said, look at the dew points. Quite a bit of moisture. Northeasterly winds, or excuse me, southerly winds. So yeah, definitely have enough moisture. That's not an issue this time. But we're going to go ahead and look at Arkansas as a whole. We're going to go ahead and look at composite reflectivity because, like I said, I have a few folks all over the place in Northwest Arkansas, and this is where we could see some of that tornado risk potential is during this cluster of storms, and this could be it could turn into a QLCS. I'm definitely kind of watching that potential, but might see a brief shower like one of these pop out a little bit earlier. Excuse me, I do apologize about that very much, but popping out, or these could pop out, and so these could form and end up turning into a supercell or something like that, especially since they have that daytime heating. And it's at the peak too, 5 o'clock. Yeah, that could be a little bit of trouble. So folks in northeastern Arkansas definitely want to watch that. But like I said, after that, primarily QLCS, which is a wind and hail driven threat. However, a sneaky tornado is not to be ruled out. So I'm going to go over one last little bit here before I end this live stream because unfortunately, I do have to start getting ready for bed. As like I said, it's going to be very early morning for me, as I'm trying to get off work a little bit early. That way, I can monitor these storms just for y'all. So look with that. So just hang with me here as we go over one last review. So one last review. Pay attention, folks. All right, so we got marginal and slight risk. I just realized I looked at that camera, not that one. See, you'll have to excuse me. I have another monitor right over here. So I'm so used to looking at my other monitor when recording, but I have it from my main one here. So it throws me off very much, as I did it again whenever I was talking about that. Anyways, I have another monitor right here. This is the one that I do forecasting on. I'm used to looking at this one when I'm looking at the camera. So you'll have to forgive me. It throws me off. I'm still trying to get used to all this whole setup in the live stream. So just forgive me. It's all right. All right. So in review, no more. Slight risk over all of northwest Arkansas, including portions of northeastern Oklahoma and then southwest portions of Missouri. Northeast or southeastern Kansas, marginal risk, nothing too concerning. Tornado risk, barely just creeping into 5%, maybe in far eastern portions of our coverage area. I do think that it might get lifted a little bit more to the west. However, 2% risk over northeast Oklahoma and then southwest Missouri. Nothing at the moment for southeastern Kansas. However, I'm not too concerned about that, as that risk has already been assessed this morning, as we had today, as we had a marginal risk over portions of southeastern Kansas. But looking at the wind threat, and this is primarily going to be the main threat, so you can see 15%, same story. All of northwest Arkansas, northeast Oklahoma, southwest Missouri. I don't need to keep repeating this. You understand the whole ordeal. You got eyes. Anyways, 15% Risk over northwest Arkansas, southwest Missouri, northeastern Kansas. Wind and hail are going to be the primary two threats for northwest Arkansas and the Ozark area. However, that just updated. Sweet. But anyways, wind and hail are going to be the primary two threats. However, we do have an isolated tornado threat. It's non-zero, but it is not high. So just keep your eyes on the weather. I will continue to update as things go along. A lot of this will depend on what our morning convection is. Main shower potential is between 10 a.m. to 2 p.m. Or excuse me, 10 a.m. to 4 p.m. We could see some going into the evening hours, but those are just light showers. There'll be a ton of lightning with these storms, so definitely want to make sure you're staying covered when thunder roars. Go indoors. Arkansas game more than likely will be delayed, not postponed, but delayed due to lightning. However, we could see a break, maybe, if we're lucky. I don't know. Hasn't been a lot of luck on Arkansas' side this year, so we'll definitely keep an eye on it. If you're doing any tailgates, make sure you have, one, an umbrella for sure, just in case you get some morning showers, which more than likely will happen. But two, as well, make sure you have somewhere to stay, like a vehicle or another, like a steady structure, just in case thunder roars. Like I said, you want to go indoors, car, vehicle, anything like that, or car, building, anything like that, anywhere but outdoors. Also, tent, it's not going to protect you. When lightning strikes that tent, it's going to go right through that tent. Trust me. But so, in review, storms between 10 a.m. to 4 p.m., marginal tornado risk, and elevated wind and hail risk. And so definitely going to be monitoring that. Now, looking at you, Cumberland River area, we get a marginal risk over most of our area. However, we do have a slight risk just creeping into Clarksville. Tornado risk is going to be a 2% hash. You'll have to excuse me there. We're going to restart that because my voice decided to just cut me off there. And I went a little quick. But marginal risk over all of Northwest and Cumberland, marginal risk all over the Cumberland area, and then a slight risk just barely creeping into the Clarksville area. But as you look at tornado threat, it is a non-zero tornado threat, 2%. However, when you look at the environmental conditions, as we did earlier in this live stream, nothing too concerning at the moment. I think that the tornado risk might be a little bit pushed farther west, as I just don't see a whole lot of potential in this storm system. But remember, it's non-zero. A lot of things can change very quickly, so I'll keep monitoring that as well. But wind and hail will be our primary threat. I do think we'll probably get upgraded to 5% just because the environment is starting to fall apart a little bit and can have those downpours or downbursts, excuse me. However, wind risk is the primary ordeal. It's at a 5% at the moment, but I would not be surprised if they shifted that 15% just a little bit more over the Bowling Green and eastern portions of the Cumberland River area, as well as Nashville. So definitely don't be surprised if you see that in tomorrow's update. However, shower potential will be between midnight and right around 6 to 7 a.m. So don't worry about the Titans game. Titans game will not have any issues. So like I said, if there is any lightning, I believe the kickoff is at noon, which if you are tailgating extremely early before sunrise, then definitely want to make sure you're just watching the weather and making sure there's no storms that could be moving through that will disrupt it. So that's all for today, folks. I just wanted to give you a quick 30-minute update on what was all going on. And so thank you so much for watching, and hopefully you got a little bit of information out of this. And so I hope you have a great rest of your day. Stay safe, folks, and I'll keep you updated on the very latest. Have a good one, folks.